Welcome to Courageous Confidence, your courageous confidence. And I hope whilst you're looking at the image on your screen, you can start to see the images coming through. This is my way of demonstrating to you that we're starting to uncover the real you and bringing that courageous tiger out into the open for everybody to see, for you to stand confidently and courageously. We're now going to work through Worksheet Discovery 3. And this is originally an exercise that I did at a seminar, and I found it really, really difficult, particularly in a seminar when I was there and in the time frames. So this is one that may take you a little bit longer to dive into, but the importance here is to dive into it and to keep working on it, because at the end result is a real great amount of inspiration from your own accomplishments and a really cool, great self-acknowledgement. And that's where you're really building that courageously confident you. I'm going to do it the reverse way around, because when I did this exercise, I found it really hard to start with the things that I could celebrate over my lifetime. It was really easy to remember the past mistakes and failures and screw ups. So we're going to make it easy. We're going to start with those first, and then we'll work through to the other area. So as it says here in the worksheet, it says human nature. It's human nature to overestimate what we can do in a year and totally underestimate what we can do in 10 years. So what we're going to do now is let's get the crap out of the way, and so we can get the learnings out in the open, so we can use these resources for later to build on that self-confidence and you knowing that you know that you know, and you know that you've previously been brilliant. So what are your past mistakes, failures or screw-ups? That's a biggie, isn't it? Now I bet you've all started writing a whole heap down as quickly as I did. And if you haven't, that's fine. But just be a bit brutally honest here with yourself about some of your past mistakes, failures, and just really look at some of the biggest screw-ups. One of mine was obviously at the time when I left my marriage. I'd left a 13-year marriage. I had a very, very young son at the time, and my closest family totally disapproved and totally disowned me. So obviously during that time, I felt like a real failure. And when you've just busily jotted some down, don't dwell on them too much. Just list your favourite 3, your biggest of all time. What were the biggest ones? Just so you've got it down and you've acknowledged it. And pause the video for as long as you need to dive into this process, as much time as you need. So pause the video and then we can keep going. So when you looked at those mistakes, failures, or whatever you want to call them, what did you learn? And being totally honest and truthful for yourself, really think on this. When you're looking back, using that gift of retrospectively looking back and gaining the insight, what can you now see or feel that differently, and how are you more powerful because of that experience? So my learnings, as an example, after leaving the marriage that I'd been in for 13 years and we'd been in a relationship for 20-something, was I learnt the gift of being able to communicate, coming from a place of understanding and letting go and acceptance, and the ability to have boundaries, my boundaries, and then respect some of my ex-partners in this case. And now when I can look back, I know that we've learned all that, and now we have extended new families that all get along really, really well, which is great for all of us involved, and it's perfect for the kids. So what did you learn? And take your time to jot down and reflect. Now you may find a few things will come up now, and then you might find later in the day you're actually cooking dinner or something and something else will come up. Please capture as much of this as you can. This is a really important exercise to do, so capture as much of these learnings as you can. If you need to keep coming back to them, please do so. And our past is never as relevant as we think it is, and that comes from Danielle, who has a great book on fire starter sessions. Awesome. now let's have a look at some of your accomplishments. Now, this is the thing that I found really tricky, because at the time we had to list, I think he wanted 10 or 20 from us. It was 10 during the seminar, and he challenged us to make it to 20, and I could only think of 3. So the key here is to make a list of all the things that you've accomplished, achieved, or are proud of in the last 5 to 10 years. Okay, and we're just going to jot some of those down. And some of mine, for example, were I published an article in a magazine, I had a baby, and when I'm looking back at this exercise, it was a few years ago, so I'd look back, and within my 10-year time frame I'd had a baby. I will say now he's actually 12. I spoke from stage. I started another business. I helped Rory with his learnings and his learning difficulties he was having at school through some of the learnings that I'd had for myself. I'd hiked up a massive mountain, and I regained my fitness. So what I want you to do here is write down as many things that you've accomplished, achieved, or are proud of. And I want you to get to at least 10 to 20 exciting successes. Your successes. They don't need to be successes that other people deem as successes. These are your successes. And these are the things that are most relevant to you and only you. I'll give you a really quick snapshot of how I wrote mine out. Now, I always write in a big pattern with lots of colours, because I find colour and creativity work for me. And I will point out here, you'll blow your own mind when you look back honestly. And it's really about allowing yourself to recognise some of your achievements. Now, some on here is, yes, I started several businesses and I sold a business in 4 months. I was in property development, and I had a number of different properties and some cash assets. Keeping in mind this was when I was married, and of course a lot of these have gone now as part of our settlement, and it's a case of rebuilding. I had the son that I didn't expect to have. I met Tyson, which is my new partner. I was able to reinvent my life. I was published in a book. And a big one for me was I got a phone call from Dale Beaumont that asked me to work with him, which was fantastic. And I'd gone overseas a number of times, which I hadn't expected to do. So there's just a really quick example of some of mine. The idea here is to jot down whatever is relevant to you. If you tried a really tricky cake recipe and you nailed it, and that was exciting for you at the time and is really relevant to you, you jot it down. It is not about somebody else's and comparing it with somebody else's. This is purely about you and you digging deep to notice and acknowledge what you've been able to do well, that you've been feel successful from, and that you've been proud of. And I want you to keep going, keep going, and keep going. What else have you celebrated, created? What's inspired you? What have you been able to do, and what have you done? What impact have you made for yourself or others that you can notice, large or small? And just keep jotting them down and keep coming back and reflecting on them. So pause the video for as long as you need to at this point. Okay, now let's have a look. What did you feel during one of your top peak experiences in your life? And I want you to jot these down. What emotions did you experience? What feelings were expressed? Were you elated? Were you very proud and excited? Did you see, like in my case, I saw Rory suddenly get the learning, with his learning that I was helping with, the penny suddenly dropped. I could see it in his face. That was a really exciting moment because that was a turning point in his learning. So what feelings and experiences can you write down and jot them down? And if there's not enough room, certainly create a journal and just jot them down and pause the video while you do so. So how does this knowledge help you? We all have conflict at different times and we all have fears. And by acknowledging them, we're releasing them, and this gives us strength. When you've jotted your list down like I did, I put on a big A3 sheet and I stuck that up on my wall right in my office, purely only for me to see. And then when I started having clients at home, I moved it into my bedroom. but it was a reminder to me, and to me only, of the things that I have been able to achieve. Which means if I've been able to achieve things like that in the last 10 years, what am I going to be able to achieve in the next 10 years or 5 years? That's the reason we look at and explore this, because this is all about bringing out that brilliant courageousness that you have inside you, for you to be aware of it. Recognizing and not acknowledging what we are capable of and what we have accomplished sets us free to soar. It gives us our courageous courage, and it continues on our adventure and helps build our credibility and our credibility to ourselves. This is all about exploring and defining and discovering your brilliance so we can bring more of it forward. So I hope you've enjoyed that. This is an area that I'm really passionate about and is my gift. So if you would like to connect and discuss with me more of this via email or phone, you are most welcome. It's an honest invitation for you to explore and discover more of you through a little bit of additional help from me if needed. Thank you very much and have a fantastic day.